Hello there, right here we got a brand new snapshot for 1.19 22W15A, and you can see we got a brand new background for the main menu here of the Mangrove swamps. It looks really epic. We got some frogs, propagules, everything related to the update. There's some really cool changes in this snapshot, which I will be going over, so make sure you guys are subscribed and leave a like on the video. Now they did make a massive change to the Warden, and that is how he actually goes after players. You can see he does not mess around. That's because the Warden has a crazy range attack, which actually comes from his chest, where his ribcage will open up, shriek a sonic charge to the player, and this range attack will go right through anything, including walls, and attack you if you're like hiding in a hole, or if you're, or even just running away from him out of his range. And he gets mad. Holy muggers, that animation looks so wicked. Definitely need to be eating your enchanted apples if you want to avoid getting one hit. They did come out with a new Echo Shard, and some of you guys are wondering, does the Echo Shard have anything to do with the Minecraft Dungeons Echo related themes like Echo Void? The map itself has a lot of references to the end dimension. The texture of the bone parts on the reinforced deep slate looks very similar to the kind of bony rib parts of the Warden. They also change how far the Warden can sniff out its prey. From just 6 blocks, now it can go out to 20 blocks. There's also a brand new advancement the players can get by collecting all 3 different types of frogs on leads. This is called When the Squad Hops into Town. Now if you happen to sneak near a skulk sensor, you get another new advancement. This is called Sneak 100. Sneak near a skulk sensor, shrieker, or warden to prevent them from hearing you. This is a reference to Skyrim, where you can have stat called Sneak and get to level 100. Picking up a tadpole will give you the bucket advancement. This is a reference to Bucket the Minecraft mod. Killing a mob near Catalyst will give you the advancement It Spreads, which I believe is a horror movie reference. Getting all 3 types of frog lights will get you this advancement with their powers combined, which is probably a Power Ranger reference. Having the allay pick up an item and drop it off to you gets you this advancement called You've Got a Friend in Me, which is a reference to Toy Story. If allay picks up a cake and drops it off at a note block that it's associated with, you get this advancement, which is Birthday Song. This is a reference to, since you can play the birthday song on note blocks and he has a cake like birthdays. Now in order to get the How Do We Get Here advancement, you need to also have the Darkness effect, which is going to make getting this advancement a bit trickier, as it comes from the Shrieker or the Warden, meaning you have to find one of these deep dark biomes. They also made some improvements to the Mangrove swamp biomes. You can see that we now have the actual moss carpets on top of some of these roots. The roots off these trees will also go all the way down through the mud until they hit the stone that is down here, making it more realistic. They also made it so that the tall mangrove trees will be more common than the short ones. And this actually helps allowing the player to kind of walk underneath and not be too confined by all the short ones. They also added some propagules are sold by wandering traders for 5 emeralds, so you can get these without even having to travel to the swamp. Allays now have a new ability where they can regenerate their health, kind of like withers, and they regenerate at the rate of 2 health per second, which is great, so you don't have to worry about these guys dying by accidentally bumping into some cactus or lava. Make sure you guys are tuning into my streams. I am doing a lot of different cool contraptions, like my super compact allay sorter and many other 1.19 contraptions. In a past snapshot, they made it so that wool as well as carpet would prevent noises from the note blocks from reaching through it. They have now reverted this change. Now wool does muffle the player walking on top of it, but they now also added so that walking on carpet will be muffled as well as placing and breaking it. When they came with those advancements, they also came in with some new triggers to make those advancements work, as well as some new game events, as well as renaming them so they use the new term dampen. Besides those changes, we also got a bunch of different bug fixes which will impact the game. There was problems that the Warden was still despawning when a little bit too far away from the player, which is now resolved. Looked like they changed it so wardens that are name tagged will no longer despawn and they don't have to be constantly targeting something. They fixed the problem of being able to push a warden when it's digging out of the ground or going back in. After roaring at an enemy, a warden could sometimes forget exactly which one it was attacking. Despite shrinkers being able to be waterlogged, placing them down inside of water was actually deleting the water. The skulk charges have these really cool looking particles, but you couldn't actually summon them in yourself. You were still able to activate a shrieker and hurry destroy it, preventing the warden from being summoned in. And now this no longer works. Despite most blocks following a 16 pixel per 1 meter length measurement, the skulk sensor wasn't doing this and instead had all its pixels crunched down. The pixels within the root of the mangrove were darker than the outside. They now made it so that these roots can also be composted down into bone meal. Despite the new signs looking different than the old ones, they were showing up as similar colors on maps. Despite the new mangroves being part of the trees, they weren't showing up by the other tree stereotypes in the creative menu, which is now resolved. These roots have special tags allowing them to break and replace other blocks, but it was pretty limited and they couldn't break stuff like snow layers, which they now are able to. A problem we ran into when designing my automatic mangrove tree is that when you would bone meal up one of these propagules, it would turn to a ghost block and just sit there floating. Once updated, it would just vanish, but this is now resolved. Sometimes when these trees would place down their roots inside of water, it would end up not being waterlogged despite there being a water source there. Despite the mangrove leaves being like other leaves, they weren't actually obtainable with silk touch or shears, which now works. When growing up a propagule that was inside of some water, once grown into a tree, it would remove the water along with the propagule, where now it will leave the water behind. Despite muddy root being like dirt, a lot of different vegetation couldn't be placed on it. This included vegetation like sugarcane, as well as bamboo, and even drip leaf. Caves are now able to actually cut their way through mud. Despite mud having the same properties as soul sand, we weren't able to place skulk veins, vines, or lichen on the sides or top of it. The recovery compass is now moved over by the normal one in the creative menu. So if you use this new type of compass onto the lodestone, all of a sudden it gets like the enchantment look on it. It doesn't seem to be pointing at the lodestone. This bug is now fixed. You can no longer punch and push the allay around when it has no AI. They fixed several inconsistencies with the wordings and different advancements. In some cases, frogs were actually causing the game to crash. Phantoms with no AI are now not able to be pushed through blocks. When having two invisible mobs and leads going away from them, for some reason the game would stick a lead going in between the two mobs themselves, which it no longer does. Sleeping in a custom dimension was causing crashes. You weren't able to access the chest inside of a chest boat if there was a mob inside of it. You had to shift click. But now you can just click. They fixed some inconsistencies with the boat item textures. Powering up a beacon was actually disconnecting players from the server. When upgrading to 1.18.2, in some cases there would be these really harsh chunk borders when the game was blending. When designing my mangrove tree automatic farm, a couple of problems we ran into. One is that the roots would be placed in and it would place it into flowing water, but it would automatically turn them into waterlogged sources. So if I would break this right here, it's now a source, essentially making sources out of nothing. Instead, it's supposed to be like this one. When you break it, it goes back to flowing water. Another problem we ran into is when the root blocks are placed into the game, they don't actually create updates that can be observed with observers, unlike the rest of the trees in Minecraft, which when they grow, you can actually detect them. I put those reports in the description if you guys want to upvote them. Hopefully they get fixed. From the last couple snapshots, you guys asked some really good questions about these new features. So I'm going to answer a couple of the common ones that I've seen. Now in each of these secret rooms that are underneath of the portals, they do have some kind of indicators at where you're supposed to stand. Like this little block here is different than the rest of them, and that's actually where you stand to activate the skulk sensor. And in this one, the little special block is here in the center, and by walking there you can activate the skulk. The one with the chest doesn't actually have this, but you're supposed to actually eat the carrot in the chest. We'll put off the correct signal, which will make it get past this redstone check here to actually open the door. So in this structure called the ice box, you can sneak down into this area here where there's all the ice. You can also open up this chest and there's suspicious stew. And Seiji looked into code, and this stew can either be blindness effect or night vision. Night vision would be very helpful. And it looks like this warden wasn't too smart and spawned right directly inside of all these solid blocks. I guess the ice house is good for something then. So this structure here has a bunch of different wool type on top of it, but it also has a secret campfire that's not lit underneath. Now some of you guys had concerns that the new recovery compass wasn't Minecrafty and didn't really fit the game. For me, it's kind of a very subtle thing, kind of like how a compass points to where your bed is, and I don't really see it being used in endgame because you're typically not exploring new regions and dying in the later parts of the game. So it's more like mid-game, maybe a bit later, because you do have to take on one of these ancient cities with wardens in order to get the materials to make it. You guys also point out that it's kind of funny that this item cannot be used by hardcore players because when they die, they don't get to continue playing their world. So there's no need to come back and try to pick up their stuff. You guys asked if you place stuff inside of a chest boat, would it be able to be read with a comparator if that boat was inside of a normal minecart? And the answer is no. Now on my video covering all the cool tricks that you could do within the Minecraft April Fool's snapshot of 2022, there was some things that I also missed in that video. You can check out all the other ones there, linked below. Let's check out some of the cool ones that I overlooked. If you get an open map and then put it into your offhand and then put it back into your main hand, you now have 4 hands on screen. Oh, that is so cursed. There was quite a few references to Among Us in their April Fools. You guys asked if it's possible to craft chain armor using fire, and it doesn't seem so. Holding a tiny magma cube actually gives you fire protection. Very cool. Because water has super high blast resistance, just having a bucket of water, picking up, and then just throwing it as an item onto the wither will instant kill it. If you grab an entity, put it on your head, and then if you go up to an item that is also entity, you can grab it and place it on your head as well. So it's actually possible to hold multiple items this way by picking them as entity form. And when you go ahead and set it down, they stay as one. But you can see the item eventually does pop off. Powering a piston with some redstone actually can push bedrock. If you're in a barrel and you're in survival and you hide, some mobs don't really see you anymore, like this zombie here. If you pick up a mob and then pick up an armor stand, the mob will be stuck on the armor stand when you place it back down, which is kind of a cool way to store your mobs. You asked a question, if an axolotl is given a barrel and then it crouches after a chicken, will it actually turn into a barrel? It doesn't seem so. And in some cases, you can actually duplicate a barrel by trying to put one onto a cat. You guys asked what happens when you update the April Fool's snapshot to a more recent version. Now you typically can't do this, but I just went ahead and moved some of the files over and let's see if it loads up. And this is what it looks like. So it looks like you can update your world in kind of roundabout way. The actual items look like they did vanish, but the blocks that were placed down stayed there. Now I did see a couple comments mentioning that maybe the 1.18 update took so long because they had people working on this really complex and very elaborate snapshot. And it could be the case, but the thing to keep in mind is that with these snapshots, they're supposed to be fun. Although people get excited for the actual update, remember the journey to the update is part of the fun as well. Make sure to enjoy all the little things that come out in Minecraft and not just the really big updates. A lot of you guys thought because of all the weird stuff that was added into the Minecraft April Fool's snapshot that maybe Mojang was actually going to add some of this stuff into the actual game. Because in the past, some April Fools actually had their things eventually added into the game, such as like colored glass panes. And it's possible that they added in some things here just to kind of experiment and see how they would interact with the gameplay. What do you guys think? Is there anything particular in the snapshot that you wish was in the main game? Now come join my live stream, where you guys are able to join me in playing with all this new stuff on my Snapchat server. You can find the IP on my Discord, along with tons of other helpful things. We just recently passed 340,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much, and let's see if we can get up to 350 by the end of the month. Thank you guys for all your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!